In the previous talk, I briefly mentioned that when you have created a subconscious self, it forms what we can call a perception filter, because it forms a certain coloring for how you look at specific situations. There can even be cells that form a coloring of how you look at life in general, how you respond to life in general. So what we will talk about here is the selves and perception. And you might have been brought up to think, because most people have, that perception is a passive process. In other words, you are sitting here looking at the sky, and there are light rays coming from the sky and the clouds that hit your eyes, and you see what your eyes see. So it's a passive process. Whatever coming to you from the outside, you're just seeing what's there. You're seeing the sky and the clouds. And this may be okay at the physical level. You are seeing actual things that are there. That's not what I'm wanting to discuss here, but perception is, of course, much more than just the physical senses. Because what determines how you respond to certain situations? Let's say you get a new job, first day at work, you're in a new situation, new people. How do you react to that situation? Is it just a matter of what comes to you passively, or is there also a process going on in your mind for how you look at the situation, how you react to it? And of course there is a process, and the process is determined by what? The subconscious selves you have for dealing with those kind of situations. So let's take a quick look at perception. We've been taught light rays are coming towards you, they are entering your eyes, they're hitting the retina. They are changed into some kind of signals that's transported by the nerves to the visual cortex, the part of the brain that deals with sight, and therefore your brain is seeing exactly the image that is before you, that is coming into the eyes. There's a one-on-one correspondence between what the brain sees and what's actually out there. And this might be accurate enough when it comes to physical sight, physical sensation, the physical senses. But as I said, most situations we're in are much more complex than that. They involve much more than the physical senses. So is perception actually a passive process? And what we can learn even from the example with the physical sight is that your eyes are actually not seeing. There are light rays that are hitting your retina, but they are, by the retina, transformed into signals that are transported by the nerves to the brain, and the brain then converts those signals into a visual image. Your brain is not seeing anything really, because your brain is inside your skull, it's in the dark room. The eyes are registering light, but the brain is not seeing light rays. So what I'm saying is, there may be a certain image that is projected into your eyes, but is it necessarily the exact same image that your brain is seeing? So what you can compare this to is a digital camera. You have a digital camera taking a picture of a scene. Now you transfer that image to your computer. And what can you do on the computer? Oh yeah, you can start editing, manipulating the image. You can apply color filters, change the coloring, make it look nicer, sharper, this and that. You can even distort it completely. So the thing is, what if there was some kind of filter between your eyes and your brain so that the brain is not actually seeing the image that's coming to the eyes? And again, when it talks about physical perception, our perception might be quite accurate, although we know that even the brain can be cheated by these optical illusions, where you can have a very simple optical illusion that cheats the brain. And so, let me just illustrate this very, very quickly. Here are two lines. They're pretty much the same length. But if I do this, your brain will not see them as being the same length. It'll see one as being longer than the other. And that's because even at the physical level, there is some filtering between what your eyes see and how your brain interprets what you see. But of course, when you are dealing with an actual situation, as I've explained in all of the previous talks, your mind has 4 levels. Your mind is not just the physical brain. If you believe this, you wouldn't have watched to this point. So your mind has the subconscious part, which is what I call, there is a part of your subconscious mind that's purely physical, related to running the physical body. But there's also the emotional, the mental, and the identity level. And so what I'm saying is that at each 4 of these levels, you have certain filters that color the impressions that are coming to you in a particular situation. You're, as I said, your first day at a new job. Yeah, you are seeing certain things, you're hearing certain things, but there is much more going on in that situation than what's registered by your physical senses. And that's your emotional reactions, your mental reactions, and your identity level reactions. And those reactions are determined by the subconscious selves. Now here's the deal. A subconscious self is coloring what you see. And this can be compared to putting on a pair of sunglasses. Everything is a little bit tinted by whatever coloring the glasses have. So this is the passive part of the self's perception. But the self isn't just passively perceiving a situation. It is actively projecting a pre-programmed image on the situation. So, first day at a new job, you might have some subconscious selves that were created in similar situations in the past, where you were in a new situation, it was difficult, you were insecure about how to deal with it, and then something happened in that situation, and in reacting to that, you created a subconscious self. Now you're at a new job, you don't know that the situation has anything to do with your previous job. Right? It might be a completely different environment where people are nice and they're not out to put you down or make you feel bad about yourself or make you feel insecure. They might be perfectly nice people, but you don't know that. But the self thinks it knows, because the self will think the same thing is going to happen that happened before. People are people. And so the self is actively looking for validation for what created it. And so it's not just perceiving what's coming to you. It is projecting a certain image, a certain interpretation on the situation. This means, if you're not aware of this, you're not reacting neutrally to this new situation. You're not really giving the other people a chance so you can see how they treat you. You are looking for validation that somebody's going to put you down or somebody's going to tease you. The self wants validation for the matrix that created it. And it is actively looking for it. Just think about certain situations that you have gone into and how you can see that you weren't neutral. You weren't just open to the situation. You were expecting something. And as soon as something happened that seemed to validate your expectation, you went into a certain reaction. You didn't choose that reaction. The selves chose it for you. But it might not have been that the situation actually was the way the selves see it. Perhaps the person wasn't really trying to put you down. Perhaps the other person was just insecure as you are insecure and just trying to feel you out a little bit. Many people have this defense mechanisms, and they are constantly looking for an attack so the self can step in and defend itself. But for many people, this has gotten to a point where they feel attacked even if they aren't attacked. So what happens is that you meet a new person, a person for the first time. That person is insecure, you're insecure. The person may say something just to feel you out, just to create a joke, lighten up the mood. But you have a subconscious self that feels attacked, and now you go into defending itself, and now you are maybe projecting back at the other person. And all of a sudden, in that first meeting, your relationship is locked on a track. And you may never get off of it. You can see people who have worked together for 10 years, and from their very first encounter, their relationship was locked on a track. They didn't choose it, neither of them chose it, they just reacted. And so, what I'm saying is, the realization that you need to come to when you become aware that you have the subconscious selves is they are not passively perceiving situations. They are actively projecting onto situations what is going to happen and the only way that you can react to it. And if you don't want to be locked into these subconscious reactions, you need to become aware. You need to step back, look at these situations, look at perception, and realize that you are seeing a situation through the self. And it is not neutral, it is colored by the self. You are looking for validation instead of choosing the most constructive reaction.